Coaches, we have Dan Jackson, Northern Illinois University defensive back and special teams coach. And his talk today is on defensive back technique and coverages to take away opponents' top wide receivers. Sounds like it's going to be a great one. Coach, it's all you.
Man, I appreciate it. It's going to be great. Fellas, I hope you can hear me. I appreciate you guys being on with me and be able to go through some of this. A little weird. I usually like clinicking in person and getting after a little bit and doing some demoing and moving around and I can kind of see your faces to be able to kind of see who's got questions and those things. But, feel free to chime in if you guys do have something as we go through. If you can unmute yourself and ask a question, feel free. Don't feel like you're interrupting me at all. The whole point of doing this is for you guys to get something out of it. Some of the guys asked me in terms of a topic, what to talk about. And so, really, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on kind of where we're at and those things. I'm going to talk a little bit, just very briefly on, kind of how we've established our culture in the defensive backfield, in some things we've done there, and then really focus on some techniques. And so I'm going to focus on some press man techniques and things that we teach, be able to show you some clips of that. A little bit of off man, a little bit of finishing when the ball gets there and developing confidence there. It hit on a little bit of space tackling as well. I think that's something that is super applicable to everybody at every level. One of the toughest things to do is tackle in space. And so be able to go through some of the verbiage and things that I use and show you some clips of it. And then I do have, in terms of coverages, some install slides and some film over a simple third down coverage we run. It could be used not necessarily just on third down, but it's just a real multiple man coverage to be able to that frees your safeties up and can kind of get you what you want. And you can mold it every week to the opponent you're playing, whether it's taking away a top receiver, whether it's taking away a quarterback that's going to scramble a ton and be able to give you some flexibility in game planning. And then obviously, after this, I do want to make sure, hopefully you guys have my contact information, but I'll give it to you after. If you want to hit me up at any time, we play in a bowl game on Friday, and then I'm free. I love talking football, whether it's local guys you guys want to buzz up and spend a few hours talking some football. That's probably the most productive, but I'm always available to hop on Zoom calls and with you too. So, as Coach had mentioned, my name's Dan Jackson. I'm going in my second year here. I've had 2 seasons. So I got here right prior to COVID at NIU, and then really just finishing up this fall. So prior to that, I actually got my start in coaching. I was a high school coach. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. And so when my playing days finished up, I started coaching down in Omaha, some high school ball. Knew I wanted to get into the college ranks. And I actually got my start at South Dakota State is kind of where I started, where I played. In progress, and then was able to join Coach Hammock's staff here, which has been just a blessing and been able to learn so much from him. Just a quick update on us. And so I'm actually, we just won the MAC championship. Awesome. Really proud of the kids. They put in a ton of work and they just continue to battle through a ton of adversity. Whether it's just being really young, one of the youngest teams in college football or having a lot of guys banged up throughout the season and those things, we just kept plugging. So really proud of our guys there. We are in Orlando right now. So we just got here today. So I'm trying my best to make sure that technology wise is good for you guys. Don't have access to every bit of film that I would show you, but landed in Orlando. We're getting ready. We'll have a practice and things tomorrow. And then we play Friday. And then tomorrow's signing day. So we've got a ton going on too. So kind of closing out the 22 class and getting those guys organized. So a ton going on here. I do want to thank I know that this is local area guys, a lot of Illinois guys, but even surrounding states. Just want to thank you guys for what you guys do for us in terms of communicating and helping us be able to evaluate your guys. It was tough with COVID for us to not be able to get out and see you. I've been here for almost 2 years now. And I haven't really been able to get into any schools, with things just kind of opening up in the fall and us playing. But I appreciate you guys, what you guys do for your kids and for us to be able to get the information that we need to recruit them has been huge. And I've had great experience. I recruit the northwest suburbs of Illinois now, as well as back home for me in Nebraska. And I really appreciate what you guys have done there. I mean, 40% of our rosters from Illinois. That's the most of any Division I school in the state. So, investing in Illinois is something Coach Hammock emphasizes, and our staff is going to emphasize. We got four guys to recruit the state. So it's Coach Sorrentino, Coach Geely, Coach McKissick, Luke, and then myself. So we, the state of Illinois, and we've got a bunch of guys in, and then we break up from there. We will be out, just letting you guys know, and I'll get into this talk, but want to let you guys know that we'll finish up the bowl game. It's a dead period. But we will be out, as soon as it opens up those last 2 weeks in January. We will be out on the road to see you guys every day. Every day, all of our staff is going to be on the road to make sure we can get out and see and invest in you guys. So, with that being said, I'll get rolling on this and share my screen, make sure we're good with this. Okay, so guys, I'm going to kind of breeze through a little bit of this, but just going through some of the things that I talked to a ton about our guys, how your guys would be coached here, specifically, in terms of DBs. I'm a relational guy. All of our staff is going to build strong relationships with our guys so we get the most out of them. We do have a ton of energy on our staff. We talk about bringing the juice at practice and getting after it. A ton of positivity at practice, but also being truthful with the guys. A few things to hammer culturally. Just quick, just want to brag up a little bit about the program, in terms of why we've won. And if you really want to hear about the culture and how we've got some things going and how we've been able to kind of turn things around. I know Coach Hammock's speaking, so you're going to want to go back and watch his recording because he's the man with that. But this is a special place to play for young guys. And so, we develop a bond with them. Guys aren't numbers to us. We are going to invest in them a ton as people. We got guys over to our houses all the time for position meals. We do different team competitions to get them going. We're constantly meeting with our guys on things that aren't football. If there's holidays, things where guys are in town, they're at our houses. We spend those times together. And then something that's unique to us is, within the rules, we're at everything that we can be for our players. So we're in the weight room with them all the time, which is different, unique than a lot of colleges. And, we're going to spend time with them when they're down there and they're putting the work in and training. The staff is going to be down there with them, pushing and investing in those guys. So things just quick culturally that I talk about with our guys, with the DB specifically, but I want them to have fun and winning in everything that they do. And so we are super competitive from not, the football stuff on the field. Of course, we're going to compete, but from a drill, from an individual drill, I want those guys to push to be the best that they can and try to be the best that they best in the group. We're competitive in the meeting room. Guys want to answer questions first. Guys want to get 100% on a quiz that I'm sending them, those things. And then even beyond that, in the classroom, we set high standards for GPA, and we're constantly on the our players from an academic standpoint, as well. Yeah, I preach leadership in DBs. A lot of guys, probably would lean to, safeties being more your captain guys. And, but I hammer all of our, corners, safeties, nickels, whoever it may be in the defensive backfield is push to lead. And with our position group guys, we're probably the most vocal guys on the team from a communication standpoint in terms of, communicating support calls and communicating things that an offense is doing to us and making checks. So going to push guys to be leaders and be captains. And we've had a bunch of them. Talked a little bit about competition and then, kind of hit on some of our goals. Okay, so getting into the actual football stuff, fellas. So things that I'm going to talk about, I'm not going to hit on all these, but I'm going to focus on press to start, but if at any point we can get into block destruct, I'm going to get into pressing and tackling today with a little bit of finish, which can happen whether you're pressed or you're off. So, first and foremost, basic, but technique's not optional. I think a lot of times, guys have different trainers, guys have different things that they see on TV and those things. The first thing I'm going to hammer our guys with is, the technique that we're teaching, I'm going to be flexible with it. I'm going to get techniques that are, that each guy can be successful with. Maybe a 6'1" guy needs to use a different technique than a 5'9" guy. And so we're going to have versatility in our teaching, but it's not going to be something that's optional when we go out there. I expect that it's executed and attempted to be executed as perfectly as it can. Though it may be frustrating for them at first to come in and be taught something new and having to play in space, but to push through that. So I'm big into verbiage and making things easy for guys. Okay, so just a couple general slides before I get into the press. And you guys can obviously develop your verbiage and your communication how you want with your players, but something that I've developed to try to make it as simple as possible in terms of communicating with the players, and use this in terms of quick communication. So if you're in a game and you asked one of your guys what happened on that play, like maybe you didn't see exactly what happened, or you didn't see the route, but you're trying to help get him fixed on the sideline. Sometimes it can turn into like this long dissertation of, well, he went in and then he kind of settled, and then he was at 10 yards, he was at 8 yards, it was a 12-yard. And sometimes they have a hard time communicating with you. So I do this in really all phases of our teaching, but just some basics that I thought would be good for you guys. I break down routes into 3 levels. And so to me, level 1 routes are quick throws, right? So it's a catch set throw by the quarterback. It's a hitch, it's an out, it's a slant, it's a wide receiver quick screen. It's something that got out real fast. And so, it allows me to say, hey, what happened on that play? Coach, it was a level 1 route. Coach, it was a 3-step route. It was something that we could communicate. I don't necessarily need to know the exact depth and steps and those sort of things, but it also helps me in drills in terms of, I can say, hey, the receiver that's giving the look, and we have a DB working a drill, hey, run a level 1 route on him. That he knows at that point he can run a hitch, he can run an out, he can run a slant, he can run something quick. And so it helps me be able to flow drills better and be able to communicate rather than show them cards or point my finger. I can give them the option, hey, run a level 1 route. I want you to run a level 1 route in this drill. Level 2 routes, to me, those are the intermediate routes, right? Digs, curls, deep outs, comebacks. In those routes, guys, I tell the kids are going to happen between 10 and 14 yards. And you can study an offense and you can look at people and kind of know, hey, a curl route is always their curl routes this week are always ran at 12 back to 10 or 14 back to 12, or their comeback is ran at 15 to 13 or whatever it may be. So level 1 routes, 3-step, level 2 routes, the intermediate routes, and then level 3 routes are the deeper routes, right? So like the verts and the posts and post corners, maybe some double moves in those things. So I initially I want them I want to develop a communication system with them to where I can talk to them in super simple terms, and they understand it and they can be able to communicate it back to me. So that's kind of how we break down routes. And then in terms of releases of receivers, and this is great for corners, safeties, you can use with linebackers if they're in man coverage, or even some zone coverage. But again, level 1, 2, 3 was simple, right? So I try to keep these releases easy as well, because a lot of times if a guy gets beat, you may not, again, see exactly how it happened and how the route attacked him and how the receiver tried to release off the line of scrimmage. So, again, just making it as simple as possible. I have an A release, a B release, and a C release. And so, the A release, I'm talking about a receiver. If you're in press man or an off man, you could be in zone coverage as well, but he just vertically pressed right at you. He didn't try to stem you out. He didn't try to work in. He released right at you. And so that is an A release. And so maybe a guy was in press coverage and a receiver released right at him, and it got him back on his heels. And so he opened up, and that's how he got beat. Well, when he comes off to the sidelines in a game or a scrimmage or a practice, and I could say, hey, what happened on that one-on-one route, or what happened on that rep? Coach, he A released me and I got on my heels. We can communicate. It's not like, well, he worked kind of into me and then I got back. It's just it was an A release by the receiver. This is what I did wrong. We can fix it. A B release is a release of a receiver that he may have went inside or outside, but he was still like in your frame. He was still in your T. If you were to hold your hands out and your body were to be forming a T in that situation, the receiver would be releasing you. It's not a drastic release, but he did inside or outside B release me. And then a C release is like he just took off right now. He went way wide outside, or he went a hard inside release, whatever that may be. But so as you guys are looking at, in developing coverages and those things, your guys' coverages are going to be different than ours. A lot of your techniques may be a little bit, different than ours, but, focus on trying to get some verbiage and make it concise for the guys. It's just like a tip. And I wanted to throw that on there for you guys. Just some things that I've done in the past. So, or that we do here. So, all right, pressing guys. I get fired up about this. So we do play a lot of man coverage. And so, with that, we're going to play a ton of, press man. We're going to play some off man as well, which I'll get to. But I relate everything to boxing. So initial day one teaching for a corner, there's going to be a lot of boxing terms. And it goes back to having like trigger words and buzzwords and things that make sense to them for technique. And so first starting with their mindset, when you're going to walk down and press somebody, I know that a lot of guys are going to just walk down there and they don't have a plan. You got to, the first thing I'm going to talk to them about is have a plan. And the plan is going to be which technique am I going to use? And I'm going to show you guys Ali and I'm going to show you guys Mayweather technique, but I need to have a plan and I need to have a reason why. So when I go press somebody, I'm not just down there in his face, going to, get real physical and not understand what my technique is or why I'm using it. And it may change off, hey, I'm going to use this technique because the receiver was on the ball and his hands were down below his waist, or he was off the ball. And so there was more space there. And so, giving the guys reasons as to why they're using what the technique that they're using. But first thing when you're going to press somebody is have a plan. And then the other thing is like be calm and understand that you're in control of the route. I know, there's guys that aren't used to playing press coverage and those things when we first get them. And they're like the nervous one that they're going to get beat, when in all reality, they should understand that just by pressing the receiver, now you've made him think, what is my release move going to be? Okay. I'm trying to run this route, but now I need to try to set the corner up, whether I'm going to, stem in and go out or stem out and go in, or if I'm going to just speed release. Just by pressing, you've made a receiver have to start thinking about how to release off the line of scrimmage, really before he's even thought about how to get into his route, nonetheless, like finish his route. And so you can be real disruptive, but you got to understand, when you're pressing a guy, I have a plan, I'm in control. I'm going to be calm with my feet and my mind. I'm not going to tense or tighten up. I'm in control of the situation. We talked about releases. So when I'm playing press, I got to know what release I'm getting and how to play it and how to react to it. And then I talked to him a ton about, widen to win. Okay. So we obviously cannot allow a receiver to run straight vertical. If we're playing press, we need to be able to get our hands on, and we need to be able to widen him, off his release, him getting into his route to be able to put us in position to play routes down the field. And so, I talked to him about widening the receiver off the tee. If you were to stand directly in front of the receiver and put both your hands out, your body makes a tee. If you widen him outside of your hands and your fingertips, you've won the rep at that point. And then you get into the finish in those things, but that's how you went off the line of scrimmage. And then in terms of punching, he releases at me, I can get two on him. We can punch 2 to 1 to none with our hands in terms of getting 2 hands on to transitioning to one hand to transitioning to running down the field with him with no hands on him. Or there's going to be some releases where I may only be able to get one hand on him and a one hand punch to none. But so talking about this, okay, guys, and I got film, but the first technique that I teach them is an Ali. And the reason that we name it that, so they can remember it, is like Muhammad Ali was like a big dude that wanted to stay in front of you and he wanted to work you laterally and wear you out that way. And so this is our technique in terms of, not working backwards and not giving ground, which we do have a technique where guys give ground, which I'll go over, but, I'm big and in front and just like Muhammad Ali. So the first thing I talk about with their stance is I want to capture his feet in our feet. And so when the receiver is in his stance, I want to be in front of him to where I'm going to have slight inside leverage, you know, in majority of our base coverages, but I want his feet to be inside of my feet. I don't want to be so far inside that maybe his outside foot is outside of my feet, right? And he knows that I'm so heavy inside. It's telling the receiver how to release me. He can get outside right away without me getting hands on. So a lot of times when you see our guys press, they look like they're almost head up, but they're not. They're slightly inside leverage with his feet and our feet. And then the key, like their eyes, I tell them to take their eyes, and, you know, I've heard a lot of guys coach, you know, off the thigh board and those things. We take our eyes and we just put them right on the bottom of his jersey numbers, right on the bottom of his numbers. He can go nowhere without that. So that is where our focus. You know, stance or shoulder width apart can be slightly wider, but don't want them more narrow than that. Weights on the inside balls of their feet. Really, it's the inside like arches of their feet. And you know, I have them get in a stance and kind of move around so they can feel that, but they shouldn't have any weight on the outer parts of their foot. That way they can move laterally and side to side. Their knees can be slightly knocked in knees pointed forward, you know, obviously with a good bend in the ankles, knees, hips. But I do want them to be comfortable. You know, there's guys that are going to be a little bit more comfortable, you know, getting a little bit lower. And then there's other guys that you got to be able to like kind of elevate them some and kind of find that happy place for where they're going to be comfortable. And then their elbows are tight to their body, they're not wide, and then their hands can be relaxed. And all I want for their hands is that they don't necessarily need to be up above their face or like on their face mask and those sort of things, being ready to combat. But I do want them above their knees. That way they're able to use their hands quickly, because a lot of times the first thing a guy's going to want to do is drop his hands anyway. And so, you know, I'll get into the steps and the footwork, but hands above their knees, so that way their hands are ready to be active. First step is a pierce step, and they're always going to step with their outside foot first, and they're going to just pick it up and put it down. So they're going to, you know, outside foot first. It is literally, it's called a pierce step. It's like they're piercing a balloon, like their cleats are tacks, and they're just, all they need to do is pick it up and put it down. All that you would need to do to like pop a balloon. It doesn't need to be a big, powerful step or a wide step. I'm picking my outside foot up and I'm putting it down and I'm popping a balloon with it. With my outside foot first, with my inside foot to immediately follow. Staying square initially. We're 1 yard from the receiver. Talked about eyes on the bottom of the numbers. And I am going to punch his release. I'm not going to shoot my hands as he is shaking and stemming and trying to get me spun. We have some techniques where we can go early hands, but we are going to punch once he releases. So if he A releases right at me, like we talked about, I got to be able to get hands on. If he B releases, I'm going to talk to you guys about a kick technique with their feet to be able to kick to stay in front and then get my hands on. If he C releases me and he's hard outside or hard inside and I can't touch him, then I got to kick to a run. But we don't want to punch. We want to punch the release, not his stem of his movement. So that's Ali. I'm going to go through Mayweather quick. I'm going to show you guys some clips. Mayweather, guys, is very similar in terms of stance and alignment. Difference is instead of being 1 yard from the receiver like they are in the Ali, they're 1.5 yards. In Mayweather, we want a little bit of extra space there. We're going to stay on top of routes. We're not going to give up something vertical, and we will be able to squeeze and play all underneath routes as well. But we don't want to give the receiver an opportunity to be able to beat us clean and stack us down the field. And so same thing in terms of capturing his feet and our feet. My eyes are still on the bottom of the numbers. Okay, the big difference, guys, here between the Ali and the Mayweather is you're going to step, instead of laterally with your outside foot, picking it up, putting it down, you are going to step back. You're going to step toe to instep relationship, step back with your outside foot, and I'm going to still stay square. And then I'm waiting on the release of the receiver. And then I've already got my hips slightly cracked in a stagger in my feet because I step back. And that'll allow me to, if he outside releases me vertical, push, kick, stay on top of the route. Or if he does want to go inside, my weight is already on my outside foot, so I can push off my outside foot and get connected to him. So we have a bunch of other ones there, but I'm going to show you guys some clips to kind of just be able to walk you through it on this. So like this, the first clips loading up here. Okay, we're gonna this is them working a kick drill. Okay. So I am simulating the receiver. Okay. And let me get one of my bets up here. So, okay. So I'm simulating the receiver. This corner is playing press. Okay. Not so worried about his initial steps on this, but he is now working as a receiver releases. I talked to him about kick stepping. So that way they don't cross their feet over, and it allows them to be able to like open their hips so they can transition and run. So as you watch it, I'm simulating like the receiver is releasing to the right. Okay. In this picture, his left foot, so the foot to our right, should drop slightly back, and he's going to stay square and just give a little bit of ground. So it's just a kick step back. And then I'm going to simulate him kicking him this way. So this is the staying in front and on top of a receiver. Okay, we're going to get into like their initial footwork and those things. But you'll see like their foot are slight staggered. It's toe to instep relationship. I still want their hips and shoulders to stay square, but we are just working kicking. This is a good rep here. Okay, but he just working down the line, working his feet. We're simulating the receiver got into a release. I've got a kick to stay on top, and then you see some of the older guys working a punch with it too, with them. Okay, so Eric will be solid here. So this is good. Okay, in terms of 12, just going slow. Okay, he got an outside release to our right on this screen. He dropped his left foot back, toe to heel. He's simulating a punch with his inside hand. Okay. But this is the receivers working into me. I'm going to give a little bit of ground, stay square, but I can get my hands on. Okay. So that is when I say kick, this is what I'm talking about in terms of their kick footwork as a receiver releases at them in press coverage. Okay. The actual press, so you can see some of them working. Okay. So just working some releases. All right. So working Ali. So this kid right here is working the Ali. So I'd like him to be a little bit deeper. We want to be 1 yard, okay, from the receiver, whether he's on or off the ball. It's off the receiver, not the line of scrimmage. But you'll just see him pick his outside foot up. So he's got his pierce step with his outside foot. His eyes are on the bottom of the number. So real good focus.
Coach, we can't see your film.
You cannot see the film.
No, sir.
Okay. I'm sharing. Let me go back and see here. Hold up. Appreciate you cutting me off. I was rolling on the tape. Here, let's go share. Let me see if this works. Can you guys see this? Can you see it now?
Oh, yes. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I'll just quick go through this. The kick component again that you guys missed on the film. Okay. So this is them working their kick footwork. So I'm simulating the receiver. Okay. And actually go here. Okay. So I'm simulating the receiver, releasing them to the right as we see it to his left. And so their kick footwork is he's dropping his outside foot back, toe to instep. Okay. He's kicking to stay on top. And so this is post our initial footwork. This is their kick footwork. This is how we work a release. The point of the kick, guys, is to make sure that the guys, they get their feet staggered, their hips slightly open. And so that way they don't get like hip locked once a receiver does release them vertical down the field, that they don't have to cross over and get hip locked with somebody down the field. So you'll just see them. Okay. I'm just nice, easy, moving them down the line. Okay. Just working kick footwork. Okay. So Miles here is a little bit better going to his left. He too big of steps probably to the right here. Okay. But just working this initial, getting myself in position to be able to get hands on a receiver while kicking and staying off my heels. Okay. So that's our kick footwork, which will show up on some of these examples that I got for you guys. Okay. So like right here. Okay. So as you see the film, okay, this guy's using our Ali footwork. All right. So again, like working the drill and how this works, guys, the communication stuff is, I know it's just a simple drill, but like I would tell the receivers, release them in this drill. Okay. After they all went, I'd say, okay, work some A releases. Okay. Now give them a C release rather than saying, do this, it's, hey, the guy giving the look knows what to do. And then I would just tell the corner, everybody's using Ali right now. Okay. Now all right, switch it up. Now everybody's got to use Mayweather. Okay. So he's using Ali right here. So you can see his outside foot with his pierce step. It's not like a huge gain ground. He's not getting his feet real wide. but it's picking it up, putting it down, popping a balloon, tacks on the bottom of his cleats is what he's thinking, with his eyes on the bottom of the numbers. Okay. His inside foot follows. And then from there, he would be getting into, now this is like where the kick component that we were just working in that drill would come into play. Okay. Let me get one of my best. So, okay. So the first guy was using Ali. All right. So he was a yard from the receiver, picked his outside foot up, put it down. Okay. His inside foot followed, eyes on the bottom of the numbers, weight on the inside arches. And then he was able to slide with them. He would then kick, punch from there. Okay. So when we say, so I told March here, okay, so he's using Mayweather technique. So you'll see he's a little bit deeper from the receiver. Okay. So Ali, the receiver may get threatened with, be thinking you could get hands on him like immediately. So that is the benefit of Ali, is the receiver knows, he doesn't know if you're going to punch him right away or if you're going to be patient like our base technique is in the Ali. Mayweather, the receiver knows now with your depth, you're probably not going to get hands on him right away, but this also is hard for them to be able to vertically release you and get down the field. And so it does stress them there. It's going to make a receiver have to work towards you and then get into his route. So it's kind of delaying his route, you know, by him knowing he has to work at you initially. So you'll see here now, instead of the first step being straight lateral, just picking it up, putting it down, now he's stepping toe to instep. This is a Mayweather. This is his pure step out of Mayweather, where he's back, eyes on the bottom of the number. And then once this guy releases, okay, so he A released at me into a B release into my cord. Now I can kick, punch, okay, and run it out. So we're just working kind of the initial release. So to give you guys a picture of an Ali and a Mayweather there, okay, a couple reps with that, okay, getting multiple guys going. One thing I do in terms of drill work that can help you is just, so using 4 cones for these, and I've really set up these cones on the defensive side here, on the side closest to me in 29 and 14, is those cones are essentially simulating the T. If they were to put their hands out in those things, I want to be able to widen the receiver outside those cones, or at least want to get hands on and be connected to them there. So just even putting those cones there, it kind of prevents them from eliminating, like thinking that they're going to open their hips up and open the gate and just let the receiver run past them. It like makes them think more square. Okay. So you can see like Gandy here is using Mayweather. So he's 1.5 yards, not a yard. He's back with his outside foot. And right now he's thinking step, hold, wait, be patient, stay off my heels, eyes are on the bottom of the numbers of the receiver. If this receiver outside releases me, okay, with this space, I'm in great shape now this is a release. Now I can kick and I can punch here. With the punch, I do want him thinking punch through his heart, punch through his numbers. So being more violent, he can be more accurate with his inside hand here to be able to like be more powerful with his punch and dislodge the receiver there. But I want him to punch through his heart that way. Okay, and then this is good by 12. So last picture of this. Okay, so now 12 is simulating the ball's inside to his right. So he's stepping with his left foot. He's using Ali. So he's stepping straight lateral, staying big, eyes on the bottom of the numbers here. I do want his inside foot to follow, okay, just a hair. But the patience is key here, and understanding, I'm telling him the whole time, like, you are in control of this. You are calm on this. Like, stay big, stay in front, make him work. There should be 0 weight on your heels, 0 reason to crack or open your hips, okay, and the land is punch and run it out. Okay, so that, and I've got a million different, press drills and those sort of things, but want to be able to get you some of those. The next thing that I'm going to talk to you guys just real quick is about space tackling. And so in terms of tackling, just looking at time, so I want to make sure I get to the crook stuff too. I'm going to just skip forward to the tackle stuff. Is again, just give them, I know all you guys do, but like we try to keep it simple in terms of the types of tackling that you do. So we have, I talk to my guys, in the back, and they have a high frontal tackle. So I'm going to tackle somebody up high and through them. All right. A low frontal tackle. Somebody is coming directly at me, but I'm going to go low through his thighs. I've got a profile tackle, okay, where I'm running, I can see his profile. I'm running at his inside hip. It's a side tackle where I'm using the sidelines, or I'm using leverage now in the profile tackle, a roll tackle. where I'm going to truly get into his legs and get my arms around his legs, bring them into my body, and I'm going to roll to the side that my head ended up on, and then a trail tackle. And so I'm going to go back to the film, okay, make sure that we have it up. And I'm really going to then kind of show you some examples of the press stuff that we talked about. I'm going to talk you through some of the finish stuff. And then there's some good examples of tackling on here too. Just some different examples of it. And then I'll finish up the end with the actual third down coverages, our crook things. And so right now, watching the corner here to the boundary, just like, in his press technique. Okay. So you can tell he's a yard off. He's got space, stepping with his outside foot, staying patient. He does a great job of working the kick. Okay. So his first step is important. Holding his inside leverage is really important. Understanding this receiver's release of just going now and speed releasing him is big. And then he can work this kick now, and he puts himself in position where he can punch the inside number, still be on top of the route, and get himself in dominant position here. Now on the release, and I'm not going to get a ton into the downfield stuff, but I do tell them to take their eyes. This is something a little different, but important, is his eyes should be on the inside shoulder. Okay. So like when I played, a lot of guys told me to look at the inside hip. And the more I've seen where I tell the corners to look at the hip of a receiver when they're connected, their eyes go down. And there's just too many things in terms of them seeing like hands and feet and getting their momentum moving incorrectly. So I just tell them to see the inside shoulder, and the inside shoulder is going to tell you the story anyway. If that inside shoulder sinks, he's stopping, he's coming back. He may throw you by. If the inside shoulder, if it's a back shoulder throw, the inside shoulder is going to turn back in. And so that's going to allow me to hit my brakes, plant my top foot in the ground and get my chest into him. If it's an over the top fade, his back shoulder is not going to turn me, but I'm going to be able to see and feel his eyes. And so when he's in this position right now, you can see him kind of plaster himself on that inside shoulder. So he's able to play all routes, be physical, and he's widened him. Okay. And I know the guy up top was off. Okay. Make sure I get you through some of these. Okay. In terms of tackling, okay, so, this would be an example of like a high frontal tackle. All right. So, our corner to the field, playing with patience and tempo and those things, and accelerating it out of his break, making sure his plant foot is underneath of his butt, driving his hands, his feet or his hands. But when he closes space on this guy, a high frontal tackle, guys, in terms of the coaching point for this, is you're going to go 100 miles an hour. I don't talk to guys in the back end about breaking their feet down. Very, very rarely do I ever talk to them about coming to balance and gathering your feet. To me, space is the friend of the offense, and we want to eat it up as fast as we can. And so for a corner or a safety, you get yourself in so many of these positions where a ball is caught, and if you miss a tackle, it's going to be a big play. If you make the tackle, it could be a big play for us. So he's going to run as fast as he can at him. And I tell him a coaching point to make sure that he does that is step on his toes. You want to run as fast as you can, and you want to think step on the toes of the receiver. That coaching point will get guys out of the habit of like diving early or getting their head down, and they'll be thinking to run through the tackle. And so they will truly be able to get body on body. Yeah. So really in terms of the high frontal, he is thinking, take his eyes to his chin, slightly outside, so we're not helmet to helmet, but eyes to his chin, step on his toes as fast as I can. My arms are tight against his body. And as soon as I get my arms on his body, I want to be able to pull him in as fast as I can and accelerate my feet on contact. So an example of a high frontal tackle here. Okay. Man, I don't know why it's going to the first clip every time. Okay. So now we got to figure it out. So another example of a high frontal. Okay. So again, the thing that you're going to see this kid do here, which is huge in terms of like the step on your toe mindset and run your feet through contact, is watch once he does make, and I get we got a guy running free here, but the ball's thrown and I'm high frontal tackle here. My pads are on his. I was thinking eyes to chin. right now, in terms of accelerating his feet through contact, is like the knockback that you get. He knocks him back 5 yards just from the step on his toes, don't break my feet down. If he were to get here and think break my feet down and get myself in position, there's a yard space for the receiver to work. So in order to get knockback tackles, step on his toes. In terms of a mindset in tackling, guys, I tell them be a missile. Okay, you are a heat-seeking missile, and the receiver is your target. And a lot of times it'll be like his inside hip is the target, or his outside hip, depending upon my leverage. But give him an angle. I'm a heat-seeking missile. Whichever hip I'm on is the target, and I'm going to blow that up. It's just another thing to be able to help them in terms of thinking like go and don't wait and don't break their feet down. Okay, so some of these I had in there in case I got to some off stuff. Okay, like a low frontal tackle here in terms of what we are coaching him to do is first, you're going to see him like not, I would like to see him even press more. Okay, but he took all this air out of it. He's not waiting. And I still want him to even go more and like not think break down right here. Okay, take one more step. If you step on his toes, I can still go low. Now, when I go low, I want to put my pec on his thigh board, not on his knee, not on his shin, none of that. I want to be able to get my pec on his thigh with my arms around the back of his legs, pull his legs into my body. And then I want him to still think run my feet. Okay, to get knocked back. In this situation, he had to leave his feet, so it turns into a little bit of a roll tackle as well. But the big thing here is as soon as he makes contact, he's on the thigh, his arms are around the back of his legs, pulls them into his body, and it's over. Okay, so just an example of a high frontal and a low frontal tackle. Okay, same thing again, another example with a low frontal. And you can even see 12 here. This is a good tackle, but like just right now, by even waiting here, there's hidden yards. You started gathering and waiting and those things. And I understand a quick get your feet underneath you, but still want to be able to run through and be able to save every inch and every yard that I can. So a high frontal, a low frontal, some of those low frontals turned into some roll tackles. The thing with the roll tackle is once I'm into a guy, always, I talk to all of them about rolling to the side that their head is at. And so, not being so specific as to where their head needs to be, but as I went and I low tackled and I was a missile and I got into him and I got into his thigh, if my head is to the left, I'm going to roll to the left. If my head is to the right, I'm going to roll to the right that way. Okay. So just another example of, a great look of like not waiting and trying to feel this out, but just taking as much space as you can and getting the knockback tackle there. Okay. Okay, so a couple clips of press and some of the tackle stuff, and then had some off clips. So I do want to get into the third down coverage stuff here, just to as we go. Okay, so finish up. Where's those install sheets, Lim? So pull it up. That's fine. Yeah. And then this is correct. Okay, guys. So coach, I hope, think you could see that. I think I shared it correctly with you. All right. So guys, I'm going to like walk you through this. There's, this is, okay. So the coverage that I'm going to show you guys just quick is super simple, easy to teach. And we call it crook, and we play it primarily on third downs. But again, you could be playing a passing team, doesn't necessarily have to be a spread team, but in its most simplest form, the corners have number one to their side. They have travel rules. Everybody's running with their man in motion. This is true man coverage underneath. The uniqueness of it comes into what we do with the safeties and how you can be versatile with it. So the corners are going to man one. Okay. If there was no skill out to their side, they'd travel to the other side. I mean, they are finding the number one to their side. No number one to my side, then I got to travel. Okay. We use a nickel, and then our boundary backer, our bat. Okay. They are thinking I'm man on two. Our inside backer, our field backer in our nickel package, here's why he's labeled that. He is thinking man on three or the back. And so the back is three in this picture. So it's truly man across for those guys. each week we would have something in for the defensive line, you know, a game or a stun or a twist, whether we were just jetting them, sending them. You know, we would have a D-line stunt married with this coverage, depending upon our opponent and what they were doing. The safeties, though, okay, so the safeties are going to come out, and they are always going to show like a too deep. They're going to show like it's too high. So when an offense looked at us, they would think it's probably like 2-man, right? Which is, you know, the toughest pass coverage for an offense to be able to complete routes against. And so they're going to see 2-man. But on the snap of the ball, we always designate our whip, okay? He's an adjuster in terms of playing the low hole in crook. If we just signal in crook, and our stud going to the high hole playing the third. So it looks like too high, but on the snap of the ball, our whip, he is going to drop to the sticks to the middle of the field. So if it's 3rd and 8, he's going to drop at 8 yards in the middle of the field, and he is 100% off the quarterback, playing quarterback eyes. And so he's there to help on like quarterback scramble potentially, but really more like mesh routes or routes in the middle of the field. Okay, the stud, our field safety here, on the snap of the ball, he's going to sprint to the third. So they are not going to like move early. It's going to be on the snap of the ball. The whip's going to drop in as the low hole, and the stud dropping in as the high hole. Okay, now important to talk to your guys when you have inside help. When I'm playing man coverage and I have inside help, our bat and our nickel here, they would think to play outside leverage man and funnel all routes to their help. And so it really, the key to those guys in man coverage is understanding where my help's at. My help's inside and crook. I can play on the outside number of this guy. So that way, if he does run an outside release vertical or he does run an out route, I'm in position to stop those routes. If he runs something underneath, I'm going to be able to get connected to that route and play that route, but he's going to be running through my help. Okay, so in its most simplest form is crook. Okay, now we go through and we want to play, let's say we're playing an athletic quarterback. Okay, so we want to play man. We want to play one high man on it's a passing situation, but we're afraid that the quarterback is going to see that we're in man and want to scramble and turn and run the ball. So again, we'd have a D-line stun. So that we would, instead of calling just crook, we would call it crook spy. And the spy part now tells the whip, instead of thinking drop in and be the low hole, he's going to drop in and he is going to kind of slow hug the quarterback. He is 100% off the quarterback and he's playing the scramble. Okay. Your stud is still playing the middle of the field. Your corners and your nickels or your linebackers are still in man coverage on 2 and 3. You know, as I touched on, if their guy were to motion, they'd be running with them. I mean, pure man coverage. But you're playing a team where you want to be able to have the low hole, high hole help. You just call crook. Hey, it's a team where we want to play man. We do want to have some post safety to be able to help on deep routes in the middle, but we don't want the quarterback to run. You communicate crook spy. Okay. And again, I have it to all the formations, but showing you guys just some base formations, you know, there. Okay. We also have, okay, we have crook zoo, which and we had not run this year, but are expanding on it, is in zoo, we're going to have the stud. He's still going to the middle of the field. They're still showing 2 high. It looks like 2-man. Stud's rolling to the middle of the field. He's playing deep there. Okay. The whip is playing. He's dropping in and he's going to play the hash away from the back. So he is going to drop down. If it's 3rd and 10, he's at 10. If it's 3rd and 8, he's at 8. We usually call this between the 7 to 10, you know, on 3rd down there, but he's going to play the hash opposite the back and he is reading the quarterback. So now he can truly help routes to the left here. He, you know, a lot of teams you study him, but a lot of routes like hit directly on the hash. And that's why we like to put the whip right here on the hash. Okay. Our backer that was man on the back, he's going to drop to the hash to that side, to the side of the back he was on. So he's a zone dropper to that side of the running back. And so now you have, you got everybody in man coverage on receivers. Okay. You have 2 hash droppers underneath. Okay. With your linebacker and your whip. And then you still have your safety deep in the middle of the field. So a ton of help underneath and even vertically. So now everybody can play outside leverage and funnel to their help. In crook zoo, just the key would obviously be if they were to flare the back to that side, the hash player there would need to expand with the back. We're not just going to leave the back uncovered, but we would like to run this versus an offense that they use the running back in protection a lot. it wasn't like a team that was flaring the back a lot. And so, but if they do, we're fine. It's just a hash player needs to push over the top of them the zone, the hash player away from him would flow that way. And then our last one is not necessarily the last one, but we call crook zap. And in crook zap, okay, it just tells both safeties to play the hashes. So it's still your corners on one, it's still your backers on 2 and 3, okay, with the back being there. But now both, instead of having a high safety in the middle, we just drop both safeties to the hash, and they are reading to the hash at the sticks, and they're reading the quarterback. And so you're getting a lot of teams that's doing like pick routes and mesh routes, or let's say it's 3rd and 5, you're expecting slants to both sides. A lot of the times these safeties can like drive slant routes, and they can be in windows. You don't give people vertical help on these. This is also like a really good coverage in the red zone. Like they're getting close. You don't need a post safety anymore. Like they're the 20-yard line and in, we would call crook zap. The other one, guys, and I'll show it to you off the film, is crook star. So like if you're playing somebody that has, kind of like a dominant receiver, right? Like everybody has one receiver that's really good. You can take your boundary safety and he can just work a double off him. And, it would just be, I guess I'll walk you through all of them right now. So just looking at the picture, if we were to just call crook, our safeties are going to show for depth and width. And on the snap, normal crook, our whip is going to drop in. Okay. Middle of the field, read the quarterback low hole. Our stud's going to spin to the middle and play the 3rd. Okay. In normal crook. Okay. In crook zap, they would both play the hash. Okay. Off the quarterback. In crook spy, he would drop down and he would think hug this quarterback and spy. Okay. If for scramble, he would still play the 3rd. Okay. If it was crook star, for example, we called crook star, and I'll just draw it on here for you, and then I'll just watch some of these clips. And let's say like this dude 14, man, he's real good. Okay. So corners man on him. We would tell the whip, you got to find 14. That's the star this week. And you are going to work a true double hit off him. So our corner could press. He could force him into the double team. He can just know to sit on the outside shoulder. And then we would have our safety work the inside shoulder. So crook zap. We talked about crook zoo, crook star, crook spy. So very simple in terms of like it's man, but you can do a lot of different things with the safeties. So this is just a picture of like normal crook, right? Now they run the ball on 3rd and long here, but at least you have bodies underneath to be able to help tackle the ball. Okay, so our corner ends up down in that one. Okay. But so again, with crook, and there would be times, guys, that, we could tighten guys down, we'd move our low hole player lower depending on routes and those sort of things. But, all we've done in this picture is we've just moved him down tighter because of our disguise. We just moved our whip down in the box because we wanted to show like we were really bringing like a more of an all-out pressure. The other one, I guess the last one to even talk about in the crook package is you can call crook Mike and use your Mike linebacker that was covering the back and use him in any blitz that you would want. You can blitz him, you can twist him, you can stun him, you can have him spy. But crook Mike just told the whip, okay, our boundary safety, who's really our adjuster, to cover the back. Okay, so really the stud, you can be somewhat brain dead and play that. You're playing the 3rd in all of these. It's really the whip is our adjuster. Okay, so you got to bear with me here a little bit, guys. I don't have the overlays on here just with us being in Orlando on this. But so this is like crook. This is an example of crook Mike. Okay, so all we did is we took our boundary safety and we said, you have the back man. And so as soon as he was taking the back man, now we can bring 5. Okay, so we can kind of mess with their protections and those things. This was like a little overload look that we wanted to do to be able to create some pressure. Okay, so again, in crook, everybody's thinking man in terms of the underneath players. It's just really how do we want to adjust our safeties, to our opponent or to the situation of the game, and go from there. So this is like another example of crook Mike. So we wanted to bring 5 so you can see we're getting some pressure. Okay, and then our whip right here, our safety, he's thinking that he has the back. Okay. But again, the key to all of this is knowing where my help is. So these two kids right here knew that they had help inside. Okay. So they knew I'm not going to get beat on a route out here. I'm going to move my leverage outside. Okay. And I'm going to know that if this receiver is going to release, he's got to get released inside, and then I can plaster the outside shoulder. And so really both of these guys are in great position to use their post safety. And even the safety that has the back was hovering over him. So it wasn't something that, he was still able to give some body presence. Okay. So Crook Mike again. Okay. I do want to get you guys one of these. Okay. So this is just normal Crook. Okay, we're dropping our safety in. Let me get you one here from this game. Okay, so this is a look at Zap. Okay, so Crook Zap just told these two guys to play the hashes. Okay, so they're going to play the hashes. They're at the sticks, and they were all off the quarterback. Okay, it told everybody else to have help on the hashes. So you can see both here, both backers, they can sit on the outside shoulder of this guy. They were not going to get beat on a vertical release this way. That's a hard route on this dude. In one high man, a lot of teams like these race routes, but you can take them away by being outside leverage. Understanding where my help is at. Okay. And then again, just truly a four-man game up front. We kind of mugged our backer in this one. He had this, our Mike's responsible for the back. And then the other thing where you can get some pressure is like, the linebacker that is responsible for the back can hug the back. Like he can literally just rush to cover. So the back's in protection. We can get two running right at the face of the back too. Okay, like if he adds sooner here, he's going to get him a sack a lot cleaner. Okay, so anyways, guys, I know I rushed through the Crook stuff a little bit at the end, but kind of out of hour, I'll finish up. But I do want you guys to know that hit me up. I'm good with sending things out or talking football or install sheets or drill tape, whatever you guys would want from us. We're going to be available for you. And we would love to have as many of you guys up in the off season as possible, with COVID kind of, hopefully on the downtick and those things, and to be able to get you guys in our buildings, and then we'll be out and see you in January as well. But just let me know, or let any of us know on staff if you guys need absolutely anything at all. Appreciate you guys.